Um, so, yeah, it's been raining cats and dogs for the past couple of days. Now, while we're thankful for the rains, essentially what it means is that we can't really proceed with pouring or mixing the concrete for our foundations to put up our structure. Thankfully, members of the community or the village where we're staying at have agreed to put our building materials in their huts, which is fantastic. Which is why I love this whole idea of living in rural communities, because they're extremely organized. So, above the rain, I wanted to talk to you about something that we're going to benefit from regarding the rain in terms of what we're setting up. So, one of the things that we're putting in is like a water collection facility. So we're going to be able to collect rainwater in the times that it actually rains. I think in this Victoria Falls area, probably you're looking at once a year, this particular period of December. So it's good to be able to collect rainwater. And so we're building some reservoirs that are, that are going to be able to do that. One of the things of living off grid is all about preparation and investing ahead of time. So your first year is going to be very difficult because you aren't doing things at an optimal level. But if you look at your trajectory, it's often very motivational to be able to, you'll be able to get to the level that you need to be completely off grid. What I wanted to speak to you about is what our plan was regarding food. So in November, we did what was called a vegetarian November, where we basically, my wife and I decided to go off meat and just do vegetable recipes, which is fantastic because I managed to come up with a book out of it with I think about 45 or 50 recipes that are going to come out in January. But the idea or the exercise, isn't that rain beautiful? The idea of the exercise was for us to be able to calculate our needs in terms of food that we could grow ourselves. Because I want you to imagine we're moving into a rural place. We are ordering in some seedlings that we're going to put into a greenhouse. So we just needed to calculate what type of vegetables did we like, what can be grown in a certain amount of time, so that everything is about planning. So when you're going off grid, a lot of stuff is about planning. So right at the beginning, it's not a thing that you're like off grid. You have to work with percentages and targets and say, okay, 15% of the stuff that we're gonna buy, or like 80% of the stuff we're gonna buy from the shops, and we're gonna grow 15% ourselves, and then increase it to 20%, 30%, 40% until you're completely self-sufficient. So our journey of self-sufficiency it has to do with the fact that we firstly had to calculate what our load is. How much does it cost to feed the nubes within this particular period? So the recipes that I've been doing a lot of calculations, putting some figures down, looking at quantities, recipes and so on, so I know what I need to be growing and for how long and what kind of space. And what's actually funny is that we can easily be fed by a small greenhouse that measures maybe 3 by 3 meters. We're currently looking into the sources of where we're going to order the seedlings and start growing our own food, so that by the time we get to somewhere like March, we want like an all-weather type ability to be able to grow all of our foods. And the next level is to move into our grains. And then later on, obviously, when we've started our chicken project, we'll have our chicken project, which means it will first give us eggs. So if you look at most of my recipes, they have eggs in them. They'll give us eggs before the broilers start giving us chickens. And then we start looking also into other things like pigs, goats, cattle. But obviously those would require us to build up a cold room. So yeah, I just thought I'd explain to you how the methodology of how we are approaching our home. Now, for people to understand, our house, the Ncube household that's being built in Victoria Falls, is not the business. It's the I live on the principle of your business must solve your problems. So when your business solves your problems, so our main problem was that we needed to get off the rent trap. We needed to live in a more sustainable manner, and we're building this prototype house that will form the basis with which our company moving forward is going to be releasing its products. So a lot of the products, like our living wall, our house is going to have a small aquaponics sort of feature, like fish tanks supplying water into the vegetables that are being grown in the house. So we can like pick our lettuces, our some of our favorites, our herbs, lettuces, some fruits like strawberries and so on, in this aquaponic system that will be situated on the walls of our kitchen and our lounge, as well as the greenhouse itself. Then we have our living hedge. So our hedge will have stuff like our legumes, like our beans, things that like creepers, things that like our mbora, which is the greens that you get, like the pumpkin leaves and so on, growing on our hedge. So we're minimizing the need to actually grow food on a wider surface area. We put a drip irrigation system that puts water down onto our vegetables that make up our hedge, vegetables, berries, and so on that can grow up as a hedge around our property. So the place that we're operating our prototype is a 70 by 70 piece of land. What we're trying to do is to absolutely optimize what you could do with that within that space. Well, what can that space actually do? And so when we're rolling out in the different centers, what we'll be hoping to do is to set up Ekaya centers around the country, where young sort of creative nomads, digital people with the type of brains that we need to create these smarter, greener cities would want to move to, because what we're doing is we are lobbying for broadband, internet access, mini grids, biogas, and so on, to create sustainable sort of little villages of young tech entrepreneurs so that they can live out in the rural areas but still be able to earn revenues wherever they are. So, in a nutshell, our plan is about respecting our history, bringing all of the knowledge, and this is why we're moving into the rural communities, to learn more about our ways as a people. Why did we do certain things? Like I found out that the reason why there is a kitchen in the middle of a hut, for example, and they don't put a chimney, is that the smoke cures the roof and allows it to last much longer. It almost creates like a barrier that allows that thatch to last much longer, because in the other rooms that don't have that smoke that's coming in, they don't last as long, which is why when they build a rural home, they'll like set a fire in the middle of the room to sort of cure the straw at the top. So what we're doing as a company is we're just curating information. So curating information from the past, curating information about understanding our present, and curating information about the future. Because for me, just as a TED fellow, I get access to a lot of information and people, inventors, engineers, traveling around the world, performing, meeting corporates, doing I do a lot of campaigns for corporates, I do a lot of campaigns for NGOs, I'm a curator of information, so I have a wealth of knowledge, or a knowledge bank, so to speak, that if I took that knowledge, how do I put that knowledge to use in the rural setting? Because quite a lot of times people in the rural areas don't realize, like for example, you see a lot of projects, they're like, put a rural kid through school or whatever, and I'm like, no, don't. Homeschooling exists, internet exists, so if you put in a broadband connection, the kids can learn and have home groups within their particular rural settings, and they can learn appropriate things, technology according to the things that they're doing. Typical examples before I close off is that people in the rural areas don't know that the rest of the world is talking about tiny homes. They live in tiny homes. The rest of the world is talking about social distancing. The rural huts or the system is already socially distanced. All the rooms are separated, as opposed to you living in the city, are living in just one little dirty cesspool of whatever it is that you're living in. Whereas in the rural areas, there's fresh air in between all of the places that they are in. People are talking about walking, running, that aerobic physical activity. In the rural areas, everybody is walking. Everybody's walking the distances that people are showing off that they're jogging on their various Nike apps and so on. Other things that are happening in the rural areas, they're growing their own food. The food is organic. Their animals are free range. They're running around, experiencing the fresh air. It's imparting massive flavor into their food. There's just a lot of knowledge that's there that you guys in the city have made people in the rural areas feel like they're not at the forefront of technology or moving towards green and sustainability and smart and green. And yet they have always been at the forefront of being smart and green and, not, it's like just because you're rural doesn't mean you're backward. And they're not. They're not backward at all. In fact, living in a high-rise building in the city, working a job 8 to 5 to get money to buy food is what's backward. Anyway, join our channel. There's going to be lots of information. We're going to be telling you stuff about how we are going green, sustainable. We're living in this rural community. Be sure to subscribe. Press the notification button so you are notified when videos come up. We're trying to do 1 video a week, but so far maybe I've done maybe 2 this week. My name's Carl Joshua Ngube, and I'm the CEO of a brand new company that's called TouriZIM Ekaya. Thank you so much for watching.